Greetings of the day, everybody, and welcome to Chapter 2 of the Corporate Social Responsibility course. Today, we are going to learn about principles, and along with, we are going to look into arguments for and against CSR. Now, what does principles mean? Principles are nothing but the value of certain subject matter. Therefore, the core principles of CSR depend on these values and principles to go forward with their subject matter, which is in this case CSR. Now let's look into the first principle of CSR, that is fair operating and accountability, including the transparency and ethics. Now this principle includes treating your employees fairly, treating your business partners with respect, along with being honest with the stakeholders. The company is also expected to be transparent not only to the employees, investors, and stakeholders, but also towards the customers to whom the goods and services are provided to. Therefore, it should be also seen that there is no form of corrupt practices or any sort of abuse towards the employees which is going on in the company itself. The company is also responsible to make mandatory disclosures and also should make sure that there is no violation of these principles of CSR within the company. Now, the second principle of CSR is sustainable development. Now, a company should make sure that they inculcate the value of sustainable development in their business. A business should therefore make sure that the consumers are aware about how to dispose the product if the products have plastic packaging, which is very common nowadays. Therefore, the company should also make sure that there is proper manufacturing and disposal of the waste. The company should also review and improve the technology in a way that the least of the least damage is done to the environment. The third principle is to promote the well-being of the employee. Now, as we know that in a company setting, a staff is a very important asset to the company. Therefore, any business should respect the freedom of association and collective bargaining by providing grave redressal mechanism to the employees by giving equal opportunity and recruitment and not on the basis of caste, gender, race or religion. The company should also make sure there is no child or forced labor in the company, which is very well unlawful. The company should also make sure that the employees are working in a safe and dignified working environment. The place of working should be also free of any harassment, not only to the women but also men. There should be also constant workshops and career development and rejuvenation camps to be held for the betterment of their employees. The next principle is that the stakeholders' interests should be respected. There should be a mutual understanding between the company and the stakeholders. The stakeholders understand the standard of business engagement which is expected from them. Now, this also includes systematically identifying the stakeholders' understanding with regards to their concerns which they are having towards the company. Now, any such doubt should be resolved as soon as possible to make sure that there is no misunderstanding between the stakeholder and the company. Now, this is done by explaining the policies of the company to the stakeholders when they are in a process of becoming a stakeholder. The next principle is that the company should promote human rights. Now, this is done by establishing a management grievance committee wherein the employee can go to a certain committee in case of any grievances. The company should also look into the human rights matter with regards to their CSR activities as well, as they can inculcate various human rights related matters or look into any social related matter with regards to the human right. The next principle is environmental restoration. Now, as we know that a company does not work on its own, it heavily depends on the environment for its natural resources and for its raw material. Therefore, a company should develop a business strategy in a way it promotes the sustainability to the environment. Company should take measures with regards to checking and preventing of the various kinds of pollutions. It should also improve the environmental performance by associating with the traditional knowledge. The company is also expected to promote efficient method of environment and also adopt cleaner and renewable energy. A business therefore should develop environmental management system to prevent, mitigate and to control environment. The next principle is the community care. Now, a community care is when a company is situated in any sort of locality or a community, it should make sure when a company is situated in any locality, it becomes a part of that community. Now, a company has their own side effects which happens in a social environment. Therefore, in such a case, a company should make sure that it gives back to the community by this way of CSR or social responsibility. The next principle is to engage and to provide value to the customers and the consumers. For any company, their customers and the consumers are the god. Therefore, it should make sure to look into the overall well-being of the consumers and the customers. There should be free competition and also a freedom of choice, as no customer or consumer should be forced to buy their product. Furthermore, there should be proper disclosure of information and there should be no involvement of any sort of misleading ads. The company should also make disclosures with regards to any risk and allergies which can happen during the usage of their product. The company should also make sure that the products are not only ethically advertised but ethically made and produced, and should also again not be misled. Now these are the principle of CSR. Now lastly, let's look into the arguments for and against CSR. Now, argument for CSR are the arguments which are looking into why a CSR should exist or why a CSR is important for the society. And the argument against CSR means why a CSR should not exist in the society or why CSR should not be there in the society. Now, let's look into the first argument, that is the argument for CSR, that is CSR helps in the improvement of finance performance. Okay, but on the other hand, it is the argument against says is CSR makes violation of the profit for the maximum. On one hand, we see that it's an ethical obligation of the company to give back to the society. And on the other hand, the argument again says that there is a sort of like a dilution in the purpose and it's not fully honest and faithful from the part of the company. The next argument for CSR is that it helps to improve the brand image of the company. But the argument again says that it might also people believe which is not there through misleading advertisements. The argument for says that it helps the environment to get better. But the argument against feels that the company lacks skills to do such an act. The argument for says there is a reduction in the regulatory oversight and the government control. But the argument against says that this leads to lack of accountability and too much power on the hands of the company. Now, argument for says that it increases the ability to attract and retain customers and employees. But the argument against says that it also leads to lack of support of the public. Other argument for CSR include it helps to retain the interest of the stakeholder. It is easier to access to capital and the resources, and it also helps in risk management. Now, in today's chapter, we learnt about the principles of CSR and also we looked into the argument for and against CSR. That's all for today's chapter. I'll see you all next time in the third chapter. Thank you.